All right, what is going on, CHWA Nation? This is ring announcer Dilly here, and we are back with another episode of Radio Recap. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. True Exodus 7, the Shoeserweight, Chris Exodus. Mr. Chris Exodus, tell the nation hello.
Hello, CHWA Nation. I hope you all are strapped in, got your snacks, your popcorn, some tea, some water, whatever it is that you like to eat and drink. Because we got a little R&R for these people, Mr. Ring Announcer Dilly. Some R&R.
Some R&R with CHWA. We're going to do a little recap of this this Thursday show, Thursday Night Throwdown. Going to kind of go over each match, do some light talking on how we think the matches went, and
Dilly, don't lie to these people. Some light talking. You got two of the most biggest chatterboxes in the Cottage Hills Wrestling Alliance this here radio recap.
Is so
some
very
light
true.
Chatting.
That is so very true. We are going to talk your ears off about this show. Give our thoughts and opinions, even though we're going to try and be as unbiased. I'm going to be trying to be as unbiased as possible. Chris, I can't say anything for you because I know there's going to be some people in here that we're going to be talking about that I know you're not the biggest fan of.
Well, Mr. Dilly, I was a color commentator for a reason, but I will try, for the sanctity of this radio recap and for your own sanity, Dilly, I will try to be as unbiased as humanly possible.
Okay, well, that's all we can ever ask for. So, let's get into it. Let's go with our very first match. Our very first, not even a match. What am I saying? Jeez, Dilly can't even remember what even happens at his own show. Chaos came out and wanted to talk to everybody, and just kind of give a little speech.
The new CHWA heavyweight champion, Chaos.
That is correct. The brand new CHWA heavyweight champion, Chaos Jester. What was I thinking?
Flanked, of course, by Little Chaos with his mallet.
Yes, Chaos and Little Chaos out there. And Chaos wanted to come out and address his nation, his new crowd, because he's the champion. He's got to address his crowd. And
very true.
Basically tell him, hey, don't want you guys to be mad, because I promised that I would not cash in on Damian Blackwell, but I wasn't about to let Sean Valiant take this spot from Damian.
And, I mean, who can blame him, Dilly? I mean, let's go over the facts here. I mean, Damian Blackwell, wins the championship from P.T. Beckham in an hour-long battle, only to lose it in one of the most, in my opinion, controversial ways in CHWA history. Not only did Drew Carter get involved, but then Damian Blackwell suffers a concerto, which is it's a devastating thing to have happen, and I'm happy to see Damian Blackwell even walking this week, let alone out here to talk to Chaos Jester and the CHWA Nation.
That is very true, Chris, and that is something that this was not only to address the nation, but Chaos wanted to call out Damian himself and tell him, hey, I respect you as a man, as a brother of this business, and I don't want, any bad feelings between us, but, that's, man, just the respect between these two, was very nice to see in the middle of this ring, this last show.
It's definitely something you don't see every Sunday or Thursday for our online fans. So it's definitely something you don't see on an episode of Thursday Night Throwdown very often. Two wrestlers with mutual respect. There's a lot of testosterone in this business, and there's a lot of hatred and animosity. And speaking of testosterone-filled dudes with a lot of animosity toward it seemingly the world, let's talk about Sean Valiant, the technically former CHWA heavyweight champion.
That is very true. That was something that me and Angelo kind of discussed in this last radio recap. Was Sean, almost in a mirror image from 2 years ago, Sean being the heavyweight champion for 30 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute long before someone cashed in and took the belt away from him. I can't imagine how mad he must have been.
Well, and let's address Damian Blackwell had that happen to him when Johnny Banks cashed in on him at the Christmas show in 2019, and in the same guy, Damian Blackwell, the heavyweight champion, witnesses another cash in at the end of one of his CHWA heavyweight championship matches.
Exactly.
So I know Damian knows how this feels, but it must have also felt real damn good to see Sean Valiant get bested by Chaos Jester.
Well, that's if he. I imagine after he watched it back, seeing the justice, because if I remember correctly, Damian had to be carried out after that concerto.
Absolutely, he was, and that's what I was saying, Dilly. I mean, I'm really happy to see Damian out here this week. Concertos are not good, man. They shorten careers. I have seen multiple people been sent to the hospital for stitches, concussion protocols after a concerto. It is not a pretty move.
Yeah. But let's go. Let's keep talking about Mr. Valiant here, because obviously the reason why we're talking about him is while Chaos Jester and Damian are in the center of the ring giving each other respect for what's going on, Sean Valiant comes out and says, no, this is a bunch of bull, just a bunch of bull. That's my belt, and I want it back. You're going to give it to me, Chaos, because that's my belt. You stole it from me, and that's not right.
And if we're being unbiased here, Dilly, I mean, it's hard to say that Sean Valiant's wrong. He was essentially robbed of that championship. However, Chaos Jester won that Golden Opportunity briefcase back at the start of October in John Holt, which guarantees him a shot at the CHWA championship whenever, wherever, as long as there's a referee present. So Chaos did, he didn't do anything legally wrong, but maybe morally it is a little wrong. But I'll be honest, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, right?
Exactly, definitely. But that's something I didn't think to mention there just a second ago was as Chaos was congratulating Damian and giving him his utmost respect for this. He mentions to Damian that by Chaos cashing in, Damian is no longer allowed for a rematch clause. It actually goes to Sean Valiant, and I'd be willing to bet. Sean, I can't exactly remember. Did Sean want his rematch?
He wanted his rematch, but he did not want it that night.
Okay. But just whenever we thought everything was over, Chaos and Damian shake hands, and Damian and the lovely Halo, start heading out. And who decides to come out and interrupt Chaos but Radical Rick? Radical Rick just
thorn in his side.
Radical Rick just cannot seem to just leave Chaos alone. You couldn't mess with him with his kid. He kicks your ass. He's now the heavyweight champion, and you're poking this bear. Why would you do something this stupid?
Well, Dilly, listen. Radical Rick came into CHWA in 2014. Might have actually been 2014. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen Radical Rick do a lot of things that aren't exactly the smartest. And this is one of them where you've messed with this man's son. You've tried to end this man's career. And on top of those things, you've just been a menace to the CHWA nation. And I just don't think Radical Rick knows boundaries. I don't think he understands when to stop.
He really doesn't. But I guess Chaos just was finally tired of it and sets up a match right then and there between Chaos Jester and Radical Rick. Now, this match obviously was a kind of a callback to earlier last week during Ground Zero, where Chaos decided to lay the smackdown on Radical Rick, but this time
the smackdown was in fact laid.
Exactly, but this time Chaos is now the heavyweight champion. So I don't know about Rick, but that's got to be a slight mindset going in is like, you're no longer facing some dude that you've been messing with for the past month. You are now facing the heavyweight champion. Do you think
Well,
Rick
and
was trying to get this belt?
absolutely. And honestly, the thing with Radical, if I'm Radical Rick here, Dilly, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I mean, you are not just in there wrestling a normal match at this point. You are wrestling for the top prize at CHWA and arguably one of the most prestigious championships in Midwest independent professional wrestling. And Radical
Agreed.
Rick here, we see Radical Rick throughout this match running, ducking, hiding. And I really just do believe Radical Rick should have took this match a little more seriously. I think he should have took Chaos a little more head on because that running and ducking and hiding stratagem did not work at Ground Zero.
No, it did not.
But Radical Rick is also not known for changing up his stratagems, so no shock.
Yeah, I mean, he decided to mess with Chaos's kid the entire month, and that seemed to be his entire strategy the entire month, which not as the movie says, not a great or the opposite of the movie Dodgeball is like, bold move, Cotton, bold move, and not a smart one.
Not a very smart one, and it definitely didn't work out for him, Cotton. But one thing I will give Radical Rick credit for, we've seen it time and time again in wrestling matches. Radical Rick, he hits hard. He seems to know when the ref is not looking in their general direction, and he also knows how to bend each rule to the absolute apex of a bend before it breaks. And, like, per example, he gets a guy on the rope, he'll choke him until the ref counts 4 and is damn near going to say 5, and then he lets go because he knows he has until that 5 count.
Oh, yeah.
Radical Rick, as goofy as I can sit here and call him and all these funny names I could call him, one thing I got to give him credit for is his ring IQ is quite high at times.
It is, and that's something that I've noticed with not just Radical Rick, but a few people. They understand that 5 count is a 5 count, and they will hold it almost all the way till that ref finishes the word 5. And Rick is one of them. Now, I can't. Rick is also known for doing a lot of crazy things. Like in this particular match, I saw him pull out the 618, something I haven't seen in a minute.
Well, and Rick, that's the thing I'm trying to say. Rick has impressive moves in his arsenal. Cardio's not one of them, but he has impressive moves in his arsenal. The problem is with Rick, I feel like Rick doesn't know exactly where to put these moves. I don't think Rick has a necessary battle stratagem. I just feel like he has a list of moves that he knows he can confidently hit.
Yeah. That's very true.
Radical Rick, years ago, as a callback, back in 2016, I believe, might have been 2017, he actually defeated Chaos Jester in a ladder match for the CHWA Championship.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Radical Rick was on top of the mountain that night, and it was a brutal match. And so it's safe to say Rick has had Chaos's number in the past, but I think what Rick doesn't account for is that was years ago. Chaos took some time away. Chaos went off, took some time away, tried to get his head right, came back as a whole different Chaos Jester. You got to remember, Dilly, I tagged with this man. Me and Chaos were the tag team champions. I can tell you confidently, just from our time when the Unbroken was around and at that a CHWA Christmas, that 10-man tag we had against the New Foundation, Chaos is a lot different Chaos than I remember. He's still got some whimsical ways, but he's a lot more deadly in the ring now than he was.
I can definitely agree to that. I'm not gonna lie, there was one moment in this match where I seen Chaos reaching for some water, and I think I heard the crowd say, "You gonna get some soap too?" And it's like, I don't know about that, but it almost seemed like Chaos was gonna waterboard Radical Rick there, because Rick is laying on the ground. He dumps the water down Rick's mouth.
Yep. And Dilly, I tell you, Radical Rick has addressed the whole soap and water comment. And the reason he says his gear smells is because he gets a good hard workout in before he comes through that curtain. I'm not saying he's lying, Dill, but hard for me to believe that. But nonetheless, I mean, Chaos Jester at the end of this ordeal, Hard-fought match for the opener for the CHWA Heavyweight Championship. But Chaos, with his patented trademark signature Chaos theory to Radical Rick. Jeremy the Ref, shout out to Jeremy the Ref, counts 1, 2, 3, winner and still CHWA champion, Chaos Jester.
Yes, that is everything in that first match. Chaos, starts the show off by addressing Damien to make sure everything is good between them, and walks out still heavyweight champion against Radical Rick. But Chris, let's go ahead and move on to our next match. Our next match.
Oh boy. I would not want to have the name Skittles, and I would not want to be in the arena on this day.
No. I'm not gonna lie. Anytime that Skittles comes out to wrestle, I can't lie to you, Chris. My face lights up with joy just from the sound of his music and the echo in my head of 165 calories per serving from Candyland, USA.
Candyland, USA.
Yes, every single time that he comes out, I immediately think of that, and just I love watching Skittles come out. He loves the fans, and honestly, the fans love him.
I heard a rumor going around the CHWA rumor mill, Dilly. As you know, there's a lot of those.
Oh, very much so.
But I heard this referee in this match, he's got a brother that's a wrestler named Iorio the Juggalo. But this guy in the ring, from what I've heard, this is Iorio the Refalo.
Iorio the Refalo, really?
Yeah, Iorio the Juggalo was, from what I understand, at an ICP concert this past Sunday, so he sent his brother to come help out and do something, and we gave him a referee shirt, and Iorio the Refalo he was.
Hey, that just means that we got a wide cast for the people who come out and help us. But,
absolutely.
This match, it was Skittles versus the Voodoo King.
Oh, man, the Voodoo King. You want to talk about a guy who's full of intensity and anger.
Man.
Voodoo King is not a guy to be messed with.
No. You can't mess with Voodoo in general. Voodoo is never anything you want to mess with, and this man comes out and he's the king of Voodoo? Nope. Dilly wants no part of the Voodoo King.
And the scary thing is, Dilly, people say wrestling's chocked full of gimmicks, but I'm telling you right now, man, I sit backstage every single Sunday night for the throwdown. Wow, that was a throwback. For the throwdown tapings. And I'm telling you, Voodoo King shows up. He sits in the corner of the room. He doesn't talk to anybody. He just sits there and he just there, man. He's got a little bag. I haven't looked in it, but I've heard again through the CHWA rumor mill there's some voodoo dolls in there and some real spooky items. But yeah, listen, Billy, there's a lot of things I'll do, but going through that bag is not one of them.
Nope, that's not a bag I want to go to. Nope. I can't imagine what all is in it, because I don't know if you've noticed, but Voodoo, he is no stranger to the CHWA Nation wrestling. And whenever he was here a year ago, came out with, I believe he had a staff that I just don't know what happened to, but I can't imagine that it's disappeared and maybe it's splintered or broken and in that bag.
From what I understand, that staff was broken over the head of a wrestler somewhere down south.
And
it was a one swing break too. This wasn't a 2 or 3. No, he swung that cane or staff, one time and shattered it. That was solid oak too.
I do not doubt that in the slightest. Voodoo is a strong competitor, and the fact that
Voodoo King comes in at what, 300 pounds almost,
if not more.
Big scary guy.
Big scary man comes out in his voodoo paint. I cannot stress how terrifying Voodoo King really is.
And we saw in this match, I mean, Skittles tried his best. Skittles actually got a little bit of offense in this match. I was pretty surprised, but that's the thing with Skittles. Skittles, he seems to learn from every match that he has. Mm-hmm. But Voodoo did not let him play around for too long. Voodoo, a lot of suplexes in this match, just asserting his dominance. And man, it was a car wreck for poor Skittles. I bet Skittles still isn't walking at the time of this recording.
I'd be willing to bet so, because Skittle. I don't exactly know what Voodoo's finisher is, but whenever Voodoo hit his finisher on Skittles, oh, you might have thought Skittles just got flattened and was pure sugar cane at that point.
And Dilly, I'll tell you this. I've only met Voodoo one time in a ring, and it was in a King of the Hill style match.
Mm-hmm.
And I assure you that Voodoo is not the guy you want a problem with. You were referencing his finishing move earlier. It's called the Voodoo Doll.
The Voodoo
when he hits
Doll.
That thing, man, when he hits that thing, nobody gets up. Nobody.
No.
It's going to be a threat to be forced to be reckoned with, and something interesting with Voodoo happened later on in the show, but we'll get there.
We'll get there whenever we hit that point. But Voodoo, obviously from the way that we are talking, Voodoo walked away with the victory in this match against Skittles as our security and our men in orange help Skittles off to the back after this match.
And Voodoo with a good show of sportsmanship. Voodoo, he's a pretty all right guy.
Yeah, there was really good sportsmanship with this match. The match started with a firm handshake from both competitors, and the match ended with both competitors giving each other a hug and showing that respect from to each other.
But, and Billy, you want to talk about just giants. You want to talk about a man who is the size of a Mack truck.
If we thought Voodoo was big.
This next match?
Yeah.
Tell the people who's wrestling here, Dilly.
So, in this next match, it actually started off as, your tag team champions, your CHWA tag team champions, the Bayou Boys. I'm sorry, I know that's a little sensitive for you there, Mr. Exodus, because
I want to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about that. But these guys came out here and was kind of talking a little smack, sounding like they were having the night off, having a good, relaxing time.
Of course they wanted the night off.
Of course they did. But, somebody came out and told them basically to shut the hell up with a nice little chair in their hand, waiting to get it. Mr. Sean Justice of Bulletproof.
Half of Bulletproof. Sean Justice.
Came out, basically told them to shut the hell up. Then he knocks Waylon out with a chair. Well, no, not knocks him out, but he gives him a couple swings. Too. Yeah. Waylon bows out.
Waylon was not happy. He was not happy. And let's not stray away from the fact that when Sean slid in with that chair, Bo ran for higher ground.
Oh, very much so. I mean, who wouldn't? You got Waylon. Waylon's a big boy. Waylon's probably like, I've wrestled alligators that bigger than that chair. Whereas Bo is just like, nah. I ain't messing with that.
Well, we all know that Brother Bo seems to hide behind Cousin Waylon, but that's here nor there. Yeah. But nonetheless, I mean, let's talk about Bulletproof for a second. Bulletproof, been around the game a long time. They are 8-time, count that, 8-time CHWA Tag Team Champions. They are, if we're counting titles only, they're the greatest tag team in CHWA history. They are a formidable team. It seems like every time they have a fight and they split up and get away from each other, they always find a way back to each other. And I feel like a lot of that is they're just good at tag team wrestling. They're good tag team wrestlers. And, Sean Justice is no slouch. Unfortunately, Isaiah the Enforcer seeming to be out for a little while because of this back injury that the Bayou Boys gave him last week at Ground Zero. But nonetheless, talking about these big guys, this is becoming a pattern because through the curtain walks one of the most agile big guys that I've ever stepped foot in the ring with, Drew Carter of the New Foundation.
Yes. Sean Justice basically yelling at the Bayou Boys and those three going back and forth. And what happens? Drew Carter walks through the curtain. to, I guess, challenge Sean Justice. And that's our next match in this show, is Drew Carter gets in and Sean asks for the ref, and this match begins.
Oh, and the crowd was just giving it to Drew Carter this night too. I mean, Drew Carter, like I said, he's representing the new foundation. He's one of the members of the new foundation, one of the originals.
Yes.
And Drew Carter, let me tell you a story here, Dilly. Drew Carter showed up in CHWA in 2016. And Drew Carter came to my household, where I still currently live, with his parents, because he wasn't even old enough to sign a contract yet. He wasn't old enough to sign a waiver legally by himself.
Yeah.
And all this boy wanted to do was be a wrestler. I took Drew Carter under my wing, and I taught him everything that he knows. Just teach him everything I know. But nonetheless, Drew Carter is one of the most, when I say he's one of the most agile big guys, there's a lot of guys in the professional wrestling business you could compare him to, but every time you do that, Drew Carter will cut you off and say, I'm not any of those guys, I'm Drew Carter. Yeah. And I think that's just a statement, to not just for him, but for everybody else.
Yeah,
Drew Carter's a confident big guy. He moves like a cruiserweight. It's pretty scary.
He's very confident in the ring, so much so that, a lot of people still forget that Drew Carter has a date at the end of May at a shot at the heavyweight title.
Oh yeah,
Drew Carter won that. So he's no slouch and no pushover. He's legit and the real deal. And showed his might in this match against Sean Justice.
Oh yeah, and Sean Justice, I mean, make no bones about it, Sean Justice is not going to back down from anybody.
No.
I have never, ever, even when Sean Justice wasn't necessarily on the side of the Jedi, he's repping Team Sith, he was still not backing down from challenges. I mean, him and Isaiah the Enforcer went to war with me and Elride how many times while they were on the side of the Sith, but nonetheless, I mean, Sean Justice putting up a hell of a fight in this match. I'll tell you, Dill, this is one of my favorite matches from this past Thursday night Throwdown taping. Two guys in there that they know what they're doing in there.
They really do. This was a really good match from an overall perspective. Sean Justice getting in quite a bit of offense, but Drew also getting in just as much offense. And honestly, I'd argue probably maybe just a little bit more against Sean.
Well, and you've got to think about this, Dilly. Let's pretend here that Drew Carter goes on to Mayday and wins the CHWA championship. And let's say Sean Justice were to win this match against Drew Carter. Would that not put Sean Justice in line for a CHWA heavyweight championship match?
I would argue, at least in Sean's mind, it definitely does. If he beats Drew Carter, that's almost a guaranteed mindset of like, if I beat the guy who's in line for the heavyweight title, why can't I be in line for the heavyweight title?
Exactly. That's a fair argument. But nonetheless, I mean, Dilly, one of the things that I hate to say it out loud, but one of the things I must admit, Drew Carter, he's not like most guys. He gets in that ring, he has one objective, and that's winning. And on Sunday, Sean Justice put up a hell of a fight. Absolute hell of a fight. But Drew Carter did get the best of him, and Drew Carter was the victor, unfortunately, on Sunday.
He truly was.
There was one moment, though, in that match that I want to talk about before we move along here on the program. And that's where Drew Carter, it seemingly risked it all. Jumps off the side of the apron to Sean Justice.
Yes.
That was a front flip. Sean Justice was able to move out of the way of this front flip. And Drew Carter not just hit the ground, but bounced off the ground.
Yeah.
And everybody... I think it's common knowledge at this point that, we have wrestling mats on the outside of the ring, but
yeah,
underneath that is a concrete floor. I mean, there's not a lot of give.
No, there is not.
It'll break your fall if you're standing there, but I mean, you're jumping, you got to think our ring sits, almost 4 foot off the ground. You're falling. That doesn't sound like a lot, but you're falling 4 foot, flipping through the air to your back and just bouncing off the ground. The sound of it, I hope the sound of that is... done justice on the camera.
And that's something that, a few a few of us, including yourself, the padding of those mats are nice, but it's still not fun to land on in the slightest.
Absolutely not. Give you perspective, I would rather hit the inside of our ring than
Yeah,
hit the mat, and the inside of the ring is not soft at all.
yeah.
So that should tell the story there, folks. But nonetheless, like I said earlier, Drew Carter unfortunately was victorious. Sean Justice gave it his best, but once Drew Carter puts you in that rear naked choke, man, there's no getting out of it. But
Well,
I believe Drew Carter. I don't know if he used the rear naked choke Sunday.
No, he.
Oh no, he used the bull hammer. That's right.
Yeah, he gave him the bull hammer elbow.
And I'll tell you what, nobody's kicked out of that yet.
No, and see, it's so crazy to me because I was filming the match, and a few minutes prior, Drew hits a finish that I've seen him hit before, and Sean kicks out of it, and even me as the person filming is like, yeah, that's some resilience on Sean. I hadn't seen the bull hammer from Drew in a minute, or at least not that I've noticed. It's usually been the finish that Sean kicked out of. But I've been told that this bull hammer elbow is nasty, and you don't want any part of it.
Well, I just speaking from experience, one of the first times I got my jaw broken out of the 3 times it's happened, the first time was from Drew Carter's bullhammer elbow. I mean, man, I've watched it lay down big guys with good jaws, guys like Harlock Cross, guys like P.T. Beckham, guys who you could hit in the mouth with a sledgehammer and they're going to stand there. And Carter hits that bullhammer, man, that's game over.
Man, but now that we've discussed that, let's move on to the next thing that happened during the show. We had a returning face who wanted to come out. She came out last week and became the new CHWA Women's Division Champion, Miss Sophia Sombra. Miss Sophia
the spicy
Sombra,
lady in red.
Yes, and you know what? She came out to address the nation, and she's holding the Puerto Rican flag in her arm, and she makes this announcement that she's been traveling the world doing a little wrestling in different countries, and she noticed something that men and women wrestle each other in other countries, and not so much around here. And so, as the new women's division champion, she decided that she would unveil a brand new belt that would take the place of the women's division and instead become the International Championship.
And Dilly, not to be facetious, but I have heard from management that belt cost over $1,000 to have made. I mean, this championship is gorgeous. It has blue diamonds, has normal diamonds. It's just, it's God, what a gorgeous title. And the thing is, let's not stray away from the fact, the CHWA Ladies Championship was retired this past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, personally for me, a little sad because, pulling back the curtain here a little bit, and, management might not like this so much, but I was a real pioneer. I was one of the people that were hell-bent and adamant that CHWA needed women and we needed a women's division champion, and I advocate for the women still to this day all the time. Those girls work so hard, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some heat on all the guys. Most of these women outwork the goddamn men. So
definitely they do.
Absolutely nothing but love and respect. That ladies championship will go down as one of the greatest championships in CHWA history. But speaking of great things, and the exact opposite of that walk through the curtain, here comes GM Victoria.
Yes, basically telling Sophia that she cannot do that. That's not something a champion can do. That's something that management or the GM herself, that's her job, and there's no way she's letting Sophia turn the women's championship into an international title, especially when Vicious Victoria is in line for a rematch for that belt.
And, Dilly, we've seen this from the new foundation. We've seen this from Victoria. Anytime something fun happens, here they come to be Buzz Killington. But unfortunately for them, they tried to make this a 3-on-1 handicap match. Victoria, Dean Roberts, and Angelo Grimsley against Sophia Sombra.
Yes.
But Dilly, tell these wonderful people, the CHWA Nation, what happens next.
Well, see, in as the new foundation at this time, because Vicky makes it a match for a 3-on-1, but what people won't see, or will see when the show is there's 4 people surrounding that ring. Sid Manson, Angelo Grimsley, Dean Roberts, and Vicious Victoria are all surrounding Sophia Sombra, poised to attack. And seeing that, what comes out from the back but the wonderful tag team, and I'm going to be totally biased in this, but the wonderful tag team of Dragon's Guild comes out to face at least Angelo Grimsley and Dean Roberts. And Godfather steps in after seeing his sons come to the rescue to Sophia and says, "You know what, Vicious Victoria? You forgot about it last week, and it sounds like you're forgetting it again. I'm the owner, and we're not doing this 3-on-1 match. That's not fair. So instead, we're going to make this a 3-on-3 tag match. Dragon's Guild and a trios tag match. Sorry, I am not good with words.
Nope, you're good.
But Dragon's Guild and Sophia Sombra versus the New Foundation and Vicious Victoria. And if I'm not mistaken, it was for the ability to change the Women's Division Championship to the International Championship.
It was. And Dilly, again, I'm going to say it. I don't care if management gets mad. I have been a pioneer for these women since the birth of CHWA, really. And here's a fun fact for all the new fans out there, and even for you, ring announcer Dilly. Back in the day, back when we were rocking in L-Ride's garage, the original CHWA dojo, we didn't have a women's division. We had 2 women, and they wrestled the men. They wrestled the men. And a lot of these women, no, scratch that, all of these women on the roster have come up to me and several others advocating, hey, we want to wrestle the men too. So who else to come out and help fight the good fight to have equality in CHWA, true equality, other than Dragon's Guild, myself and my brother Elride. And here's the thing, Dilly. I'm going to give the new foundation a little bit of props. I'll give Victoria a little bit of props. I can sit here and make a lot of jokes about them. They're tough. They're smart. Vicky, she's used her power in more ways than one, and smart ways. But she's also done a lot of things that, not made her any friends. But with the new foundation, they're smart, Dilly. A lot of people don't even know how they collapsed my lung. They have no idea how it happened. I haven't really talked about it. But I'll let it go right here for right now. For all our wonderful YouTube viewers, I'll talk about it a little bit. I was getting changed backstage, putting on my gear, gearing up for that night. And whenever I was reffing a match originally, I took the ref shirt off, gave it to my brother Elride. I wanted to go get changed. We were having some fun that night, as you know, Dilly. We do that occasionally here in the CHWA.
Case in point in this match, but continue.
Absolutely. And I went to the back to change, and the next thing I know, I was hit from behind. I don't know exactly what weapon they hit me with, but they got me right in my right side of my body, right in my ribs. And they just stomped me out, man. They stomped me. They hit me with weapons. That sauna door in our locker room that's glass? They put me through it. They did a number on old Chris Exodus, man. So they're smart. They know how to pick their spot. They know how to pick their moment. But you see, Dilly, they made the one mistake that every other opponent I've ever faced in my career has made, and they left me breathing even with only one lung.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this match.
Yes, this match was definitely one of the better matches of the night between all 6 of you. Seeing classics like the Tree of Woe, the Magic Killer. I believe you call it Dragon Scale.
Now the Magic Killer that we stole from one of our favorite tag teams. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
The
We actually renamed that the Magic Powder.
magic powder.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the Tree of Woe combo that we do is the Scales of the Dragon.
The scales of the dragon. That's what it is. See, just Dilly is not proficient in wrestling moves. You know, Angelo, little cocky son of a bitch, said it last week, and I'll always admit it. I am not apt in any wrestling moves. But you know, to get back onto it, the new foundation, they're smart. They plan their spots well, especially whenever people just aren't looking. All through this match, Angelo, Dean, Sid, just messing with you guys the entire match while Jeremy is just not looking.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good stratagem. It's a sound stratagem. It's, Angelo at From the Ashes will be in CHWA for a year. He kind of knows Dragon's Guild at this point. He knows that we're going to fight hard, we're going to hit hard. I'm going to kick a hole through your chest. Elride's going to punch your teeth out. But the thing is, Angelo knows his spots to pick. Unfortunately for Mr. Roberts, he's still pretty new to CHWA, so he doesn't exactly know how to pick his spots very well.
No, he does not.
But I'll give him credit for one thing, Dilly. Dean Roberts, he's tough. He's tough. We hit him with some of our best shots, and Dean Roberts kept coming back for more. I will give him credit. You won't hear me do it often, but, I'll be honest. As much as I hate the new foundation, Sid and Dean had nothing to do with collapsing my lung.
Yes.
I just don't like them because they're aligned with the idiots that collapsed my lung.
Yes, agreed. But let's touch back in an earlier topic, a little bit of whimsical and fun in this match, in the sense of you yourself, known to have a little bit of fun, and you went over to commentary and grabbed a headset as you decided to commentate your own match as you're laying the smackdown, giving Dean Roberts the business.
Listen, I am a man of many hats, Dilly. I am a great kendama player. Okay, I'm an okay kendama player. I am pretty okay at streaming, even though I don't do it very often. I am okay at guitar, but there's two things that I feel like I am pretty good at. One of them is wrestling, and one of them is commentary. I fell in love with commentary while I was on the shelf. But I'll tell you what. I love nothing more than commentating while I'm whooping ass. And I don't know if I'm going to make that a regular thing, but I've done it for 2 weeks in a row. And as you've seen kind of with the whole Shoeserweight shtick, if something's funny and it's working, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yep.
I don't exactly have an off button.
you truly do not. But neither does the new foundation, honestly. Sid just taking every chance he got to mess with you and Elride, and just the entire new foundation just taking every chance that they got to make this match fair, if they want to call it fair.
Well, from what I understand, Sid would have wrestled this week, and he would have maybe even been in this match, depending on how things would have gone before. But Sid can't wrestle because he has a bruised sternum. I wonder who could have done that.
Well, I mean, the man did decide, the man did wrestle Jeremy Lightfoot and Jake Prater 2 weeks ago, and then wrestled Dragon's Guild in the next week. I can see why his sternum might be a little tender.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm going to kick through your chest. I'm just saying that there's a reason Angelo Grimsley has a perfect imprint across his chest and arms of my dragon scale kick pad.
Yes, that is true. Speaking of you and Angelo Grimsley, something came up in this match that you don't see very often. You got a little hot in this match, and almost as if Angelo has seen you wrestle before, almost kind of mirroring you. You both drop. You both kick each other in the face, and you kind of roll to the outside and maybe catch a breather, and you stand up, and you're looking at each other outside the ring. And I see. This is where my lack of knowledge comes in. You basically yell at him that you're gonna kill him with a few extra words in it, and
To the
what?
person who edits our show, I apologize because you're going to have to bleep that out.
Well, maybe we'll see, because you know we'll see how well it go, how the editing process goes. But regardless, you guys both jump back into the ring in very shiny, flashy ways, almost in a mirror way.
What ring announcer Dilly is trying to say, folks, is Angelo and I did dueling buckshot lariats. And I will say this about Angelo. Dilly, is the floor in front of you clean?
Yes.
Because your jaw might hit it.
Okay,
I don't know
make
what
sure.
it is. I don't know what it is. I have a weird respect for Angelo Grimsley, even though he is the absolute embodiment of just scum. But I have this weird respect for him, and I think it just stems from the fact that he's very intelligent. And as somebody who tries to be as intelligent as humanly possible, I respect that. He's a damn good wrestler. It hurts me to admit that. But yeah, Angelo and I think we will forever be Batman and the Joker. We will be, mortal enemies for the rest of the time.
Superman and Lex Luthor.
Yes, Superman and Lex Luthor. I will always be the Iron Sheik to his Hulk Hogan. We will always be mortal enemies no matter what. I don't think there will ever be a time that we will be friends. But I refuse to stop fighting this man. But nonetheless, Dilly, we've talked a lot about...
You talked a lot about you
me.
and Dragon's Guild, but we're missing somebody in this tag match here. The person who started it.
Sophia, Sombra, and let's talk about Elride.
Yes, because Sophia and Elride also part of this match, but Sophia, the main reason this match is here. Sophia putting in some crazy work in this match.
Oh yeah, she not only... Let me just say this. She hit Dean Roberts with one of the best neck breakers I've ever seen in my entire career. Not only that, she laid out Vicky, hit a beautiful crossbody, 2 stiff clotheslines, keeping the crowd going, making sure the energy of our team was high, as did Elride. Elride, just an absolute powerhouse. He's my brother. I love him to death. Sophia is just wonderful. She's super good in the ring, incredibly talented, and just overall one of the best women's wrestlers. Now, scratch it. One of just the best wrestlers in the Midwest area. Super underrated. And,
very underrated.
I'm not saying that, I'm not saying it should be a permanent thing, but I definitely think there should be a few more trios matches where it's me and Elride and Sophia. We work well as a team.
I'm not gonna lie. That was something I was just about to mention. Case to her talent in, whenever she was talking earlier, whenever she was changing everything, wrestling across different countries. She almost melded wonderfully in with you and Elride for this tag match, almost as if she was a natural at tag team wrestling.
And not only that, but when I tagged her in at one point, Dilly, we had a picture perfect poetry in motion.
Yes.
And Dilly, let's talk about the finish of this match. Let's talk about the finish of this match. Me and Elride, as you know, we have put away every single tag team on the roster with the neckbreaker double stomp, aka the tail of the dragon.
Yes.
It's our patent move. Nobody's ever kicked out of it. But when we got out there, apparently Elride and Sophia had hatched a harebrained scheme while I was getting... hurts me to admit this, but while I was getting my face stomped in, they had hatched a plan that we were going to modify our tag finish a little bit.
Yeah.
And Dilly, I tell you this. I've seen the footage of it. I watched Sophia help with this move. It's a picture-perfect move here. And what it was... Elride grabbed Dean Roberts, suplexed him over. I caught his legs, almost in a powerbomb-like position.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes the spicy Puerto Rican, the lady in red, the CHWA International Champion, Sofia Sombra, off the top ropes with a Meteora knee. And, oh, what an I mean, Dilly, the ring shook. You were there. Tell the people how much impact this had behind it.
Well, just an insane amount of impact. I think so much so that, and this is something that you're forgetting, Mr. Exodus. It wasn't one knee. Sophia hit Dean with 2 knees.
Yep, the Meteora.
Just as doubly deadly. And, or if not, sorry, yeah, okay, words are not my strong suit. But the impact was so great, and I'm going to call this out. I believe whenever we looked at the floor a little later, there were some chips under that floor. That's how much strong impact came from this move. Was the floor broke a little bit.
Oh yeah, we destroyed the floor with this move.
That's why nobody gets out of it. And to her credit, what a perfect meld of the Dragon's Tail introducing the spicy Latina Sofia Sombra, Lady in Red. And like you said, the international champion, because with Dragon's Guild and Sophia with the pin, the win, Sophia is now officially the CHWA International Champion.
And I think since she is the Lady in Red, and since she is a spicy Puerto Rican, normally that, me and Elride's move is the Tail of the Dragon. But this move, this particular iteration of the move, is the Fire of the Dragon. My good man.
The Fire of that. I like that. That's a good modify to it. But
what a match. And hats off to our opponents. But Dilly, I've stroked my ego, my brother's ego, and Miss Sophia Sombra's ego quite enough. Let's talk about what happened next. Quite possibly, and this is just my opinion, one of the craziest, most controversial moments in the history of Cottage Hills Wrestling Alliance. Dilly, tell these wonderful people what I'm talking about.
In the 2 years that Dilly has been a part of this company and a part of being your ring announcer for the CHWA Nation, I have never seen anything like I did this past Sunday for the taping of Thursday Night Throwdown. In usual fashion, Mr. P.T. Beckham just cannot not come out and talk to everybody. He has to come out and address the CHWA Nation, even though I'd argue that nobody wants to hear him. But he comes out to address the nation and basically gloat that he has sent Tommy Davis packing. Sent him home. He is no longer here. Regardless of the fact that Tommy never signed his contract. It was his last match, and he was going home regardless after that. But the point is, P.T. Beckham comes out to talk all this trash, gloat that he sends Tommy Davis home, and things got so heated that we'll get to the real heat of what happened with Mr. P.T. Beckham. As P.T. Beckham is talking all this trash, he puts on a little Thanksgiving almost paper mache Indian headdress. And that summons the native nightmare himself, Jeremy Lightfoot. Basically, come out to tell P.T. Beckham, you better stop it now.
Let us not forget, Dilly. Jeremy Lightfoot has been a huge advocate and huge influence on Tommy Davis.
Yes.
Huge influence. One of the guys that has went to bat at other promotions for Tommy Davis. a guy who Tommy Davis credits as one of his trainers, etc. I mean, just an overall, just some would say a father figure to all of Dragon's Guild. So Jeremy Lightfoot took some exception to what PT was saying here, and in classic PT fashion, the moment Lightfoot came out, PT ran for the hills, and not the Cottage Hills either.
No,
just the hills.
Yes, but
and these two get into a verbal little war of words here, and a lot of disparaging things coming out of PT's mouth.
Yes, so much so that the crowd started getting so hot at what PT was saying.
Oh man,
we unfortunately had a fan try their best to get at PT Beckham.
So far that this guy came over the rails, fell onto a couple of fans, and not only did our security have to grab him, the referee grabbed him. We had wrestlers coming out of the back. Dilly, I want to pause the little recap that you and I are watching right now. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. Okay. Now, this is no longer, just Chris Exodus, the wrestler. This is someone who has been in the wrestling business a long time. I understand that there are people at wrestling shows, wrestlers, who are absolute assholes. And I get it. Everybody wants their shot at that guy.
Yes.
But the worst possible thing that you can do as a spectator is come over that guardrail. Because the moment you come across that barricade, your intentions are very clear, and bad things are probably going to happen to you.
Yes.
So, please, for the love of God, to every and any wrestling fan listening to the words coming out of my mouth right now, don't do this.
No.
It's the worst. And on the good end, maybe you don't get hurt by anybody. Maybe you don't get stretched or beat up. But for the guys who are running the show, the office, this is a PR nightmare. Your insurance goes up. Landlords of the building get hot. Security guards get trampled. Fans get hurt. And it's just not, please just don't do this. Do not ever do this. This is such a dumb thing to do, not just for your own safety, but for the performers, the people in the back, the security guards, the medics, the cameramen and women. But nonetheless, insane moment. I have been a part of CHWA for over 10 years now, Dilly. We've been going for over 10 years now. This is only the third time we have ever had a fan come over that guardrail.
Yes, and this is what
Thankfully, this is the least violent one ever.
Yes, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier whenever I said I've been with the company for 3 years now, and this is the first time I have seen this happen. And, like Mr. Exodus has said, don't do this. What happens whenever you cross the fence at any sporting event or any? You get dragged out, and not in a nice way. So, like you said, don't do this. But
well, and it's also, I'll be honest, I'll be transparent. When I came through that curtain, because there's cameras in the locker room, and when I came through the curtain, I knew that you and Raz and Godfather were all out there. Now you, Raz and Godfather and Karen, you are not wrestlers. You are personnel. And I'm not going to lie. Dilly, I had one objective, and that was to get that guy away from all of you. And I'll leave it at that. You and Raz and everybody know how I feel about you all and your guys' hard work and what you do for the brand that I've literally given my organs for.
Yes.
So with that being said, nonetheless, though, the cameras unfortunately did get cut because we had to get this situation under control, and our cameramen and women needed to get as far away from that situation as humanly possible.
Yes.
But nonetheless, when the cameras did start rolling and decorum was finally had, P.T. Beckham just had to keep running his mouth, and across the ring came Jeremy Lightfoot, who is at this point just, I don't even think fuming or festering is the right word, and he just finally did what everyone in the entire planet Earth probably wanted to do, and that is just punch P.T. Beckham square in his mouth.
Definitely in that moment. Jeremy did what every crowd member has been wanting to do for the past 2 weeks, and that's just give him one of the strongest punches to the mouth that he can. And this whole match was like that, you know. P.T. Beckham doing what he can to stop Jeremy Lightfoot, you know, bashing his head against guardrails, you know, giving him elbows to the head, just doing whatever he can to stop Jeremy. But Jeremy Lightfoot is Jeremy Lightfoot for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. And let's not hide the fact, I mean, Jeremy Lightfoot is a Midwest legend. Jeremy Lightfoot has been in this business longer than I've been alive. And Jeremy Lightfoot is a multiple-time world champion. Not just champion, world champion. Because there is a distinctive difference between being a brand champion and a world champion. Jeremy Lightfoot's a former multiple-time world champion. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this man has wrestled with people like the Seidel brothers, Randy Orton. He's wrestled against Mischief and so many other people that have went on to bigger stages, such as Ring of Honor, such as WWE, Impact Wrestling, etc. And he's seen it all. He's done it all. An incredible athlete, an incredible competitor. And he is still, I'm not going to reveal his age here because I don't know if he'd give me one of them Lightfoot chops if I did, but Lightfoot is still hanging in there with the young guys. And not only is he hanging in there, he is still putting boots to asses.
Mm-hmm. That is an understatement. There's a point in this match where P.T. Beckham is basically telling Jeremy the ref, "Give me a second." It's like keep Lightfoot back, and he's holding the ropes. And I don't think PT knew that Jeremy could do this, but Jeremy walks over, grabs the rope, yanks it, and basically flips PT Beckham on his own weight back into the ring and says, "No,
bringing him in the hard way.
You're coming in here whether you want it or not."
Absolutely. And, let's not discredit P.T. Beckham here, though. No. Let's talk about this. P.T. Beckham, one half of the MMWA Tag Team Champions alongside Leon Mephisto, who's a very polarizing professional wrestler, let me tell you. He's also the PWE Battle Royal Champion, and he's the current reigning WPW Champion. This man is no stranger to championships. He's a multiple-time former CHWA champion. He's a multiple-time former CHWA Tag Team Champion. P.T. Beckham has been everywhere. He's done it all. He's seen it all. He's wrestled in places that some guys only dream of wrestling in. I mean, this man is, for how much of an ass this man is, he backs up a lot of the smack that he talks because he is a tough son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've seen P.T. Beckham take on a lot of people, and that is true to the T. P.T. Beckham is not one to be messed with as much as I hate giving him that credit.
Oh, I like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say P.T. Beckham's a nice guy. He's not a nice guy. But one thing, Dilly, that he is he's resilient. He knows how to get it done at any means necessary, and in the world of wrestling, that has to somewhat be respected because it gets results.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I mean, like I said, he's in there with a guy like Jeremy Lightfoot. This match, I'll be honest, Dilly, I don't want to say this was match of the night, but this is up there that night. This is definitely up there on this episode of Thursday Night Throwdown, presented on our YouTube channel every single Thursday. And if you're listening to this, and if you're listening to this and you've got this far into radio review with myself and ring announcer Dilly, and you've not hit that subscribe button or you've not hit the like button, go ahead and do that. But nonetheless, P.T. Beckham is in there, and they're having what some would call a scientific match, but they're also hitting each other really hard. They're having a good wrestling match. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed this match quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like PT had to win at almost every means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know all the dirty-handed tactics. I can't remember offhand all the dirty things he did, but I do remember there was a couple of eye pokes, abuse of the ropes. There's a lot of thing in this match that PT was doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But PT Beckham, nonetheless, is just man. He's a winner.
Well,
I hate saying it. He's a winner,
he
and he
is.
gets results.
And what's crazy is he went to go for the win, got Jeremy in the 1-2-3, but he decided to cheat and put his legs on the ropes, but instead of the ropes, he put them on Jeremy the ref.
He kicked Jeremy the ref.
Jeremy fell flat, knocked clean out, and Iorio the Refalo had to come in, and unfortunately,
and you see it there. PT, and this is what I'm talking about, Dilly. Dirty son of a bitch put his feet all over the ropes after punching Lightfoot in the head with his weight belt. And he made sure Iorio the Refalo was in the perfect position where he wouldn't see PT's feet on the rope. I hate that he won that way. Underhanded. It's almost the exact same way that he beat Tommy Davis. He's a no good, lousy son of a bitch, but smart move. And I hate to admit it. Nonetheless, PT Beckham, it won't say in the win-loss column, PT Beckham wins by dirty pin. It'll literally just have a W. So, nonetheless, PT Beckham did defeat Jeremy Lightfoot on this night by pinfall.
Unfortunately. But, let's move on to our next match. It was a triple threat match.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun one, too.
It was between Aleister Crowe, Chameleon, and Harlock Cross, your CHWA United States champion.
Oh, man, Harlock Cross, man. What a reign of terror he's on right now. He is just stacking people. He's just stacking people with that chokeslam.
He really is. That chokeslam, I am very lucky that whenever Harlock attacked me back in was it January, February, that hit, I think, gave me a concussion to where I don't remember. Oh, that's right, October. See,
because I was dressed as Chucky during the show.
That's right. It was our Halloween show. See, then I'm almost certain that Harlock gave me a concussion. The point being, I am very lucky that chokeslam isn't what Harlock decided to take me out with.
I don't know if ring-announcer Dilly would be doing this podcast right now if you did get hit with a chokeslam by Harlock.
I don't think I would either.
But nonetheless, I mean, let's talk about Aleister Crowe for a second, man. Somebody that he was just in the main event fighting against Damian Blackwell. Yeah. And Aleister Crowe, we have seen he will stop at nothing to get the job done and get what he wants. I mean, we're talking about a man who not only kidnapped Halo Blackwell.
Yes.
But he put his hands on Halo Blackwell, attacked her, he put her in the trunk of a car, chained her up, God knows where, didn't give her any food or water for, over a week?
Yeah.
All to just get in the head of Damian Blackwell. He's not exactly what you would call mentally stable, Dilly. But
yes.
Nonetheless, I'm a super intense guy, but things get a little lighthearted here. Because we're talking about the rave master himself, Chameleon.
Yes. And in true Chameleon fashion, the match goes to start, and Iorio the Refalo realizes that his triple threat match is now a singles competition between Aleister Crowe and Harlock because Chameleon was nowhere to be seen.
Yes, sir. And let me tell you something about Chameleon, Dilly. This is a fun fact. Chameleon is actually a former CHWA champion.
Is he really?
Yes. Now, this is almost 10 years ago now, but Chameleon actually won the CHWA Heavyweight Championship match in a ladder match. He only had the belt, I believe, for 2 weeks. But nonetheless, I mean, he knows how to win. Chameleon is just full of fun all the time, always having a good time with everybody. And
Very much so.
Seen a lot of change in Chameleon recently. He's gotten a lot more moves, if you will.
He really has a lot of added repertoire. to his arsenal. And this match had a very interesting start with Chameleon asking for the bell to be rung because he's in the white and black, basically mirroring a ref. And then Iorio the Refalo tags him in to tell him, he's like, no, you're in this match. And he gets out, and Harlock Cross chases him around the ring, gets him back into the ring, and decides, I'm tired of the lizard, I'm going to put him on the ropes.
I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, when Harlock has had it, the fun will stop. He knows how to cut people down, he knows how to cut people off, and he was tired of Chameleon.
Very much so. And it just seemed like Aleister Crowe didn't want any part of it either. He stepped out as well just to let it all happen. He just didn't seem like it was worth his time.
Well, and it seemed like there was a very little callback to our mystical Journeys days, ring announcer Dilly, where Harlock and Aleister Crowe worked together for a second and kind of almost brought back a little version of Psychosocial. If you'll remember, they were a tag team for a while, but that was very short-lived because Harlock put Aleister Crowe in a rear naked choke, and it was kind of funny. When I was watching this match on Sunday, I actually said several times that it almost seemed like Aleister Crowe was a little pinball in this match, because Chameleon would hit him, and then Harlock would hit him, and then Chameleon would hit him, and then he'd disappear for a second, he'd come back, and Harlock would hit him. Aleister Crowe took a lot of abuse in this match.
He really did. Well, but what can you expect whenever you go from wrestling in one champ against another champ in very close proximity to each other? I almost feel bad for both Chameleon and Aleister in this situation, having to mess with Harlock in the ring.
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Dilly, and people might disagree with me. We have been seeing a new side of Harlock Cross, man.
We really
Brand new side of Harlock Cross. Everybody in the back for years, they knew Harlock was kind of the big man in CHWA, and they knew that he wasn't really to be messed with, but people like to step up to him. They like to step to him. It's kind of like the rule of jail or prison. You walk in, you find the biggest guy there, you punch him in the mouth, right? People love to do that to Harlock. Nowadays, though, people don't want a singular piece of Harlock. They don't even want a crumb of Harlock Cross. This man has been on a path of destruction. He is the reason that Logan Simmons is currently on the shelf with a hurt knee.
Yes.
We saw Harlock run through Johnny Banks, John Boy, to win the United States Championship. We have seen Harlock just run through almost each and every single person that stepped to him. And I'm in no way surprised that in this match, Harlock was dominating most of it. I don't know what's gotten into him. I don't know if it's just the fact that now that he's got the United States title, he's got like some newfound responsibility, or if it does boil down to he knows he's a founding father and he's in this new foundation, he has to lead by example for these young guys, or what it is. But whole different Harlock Cross, man. Different Harlock Cross.
He really is. It's something that I've been noticing is, Harlock is usually the big man in this, and he doesn't really go for technical stuff. He's very much a brute power man. A case in point of his chokeslam being the thing that usually ends every single one of his matches. But within the past couple weeks, ever since Harlock has gotten the United States Championship, I've noticed that Harlock has been breaking out some new moves, some new things that we don't see from Harlock. Rear naked chokes, the stretch muffler. Harlock has been really going in on his technical side, and it's very, it's odd seeing Harlock in that manner.
And I've seen Harlock also post on his Instagram that he's been doing a little bit of Muay Thai, and you can tell with those elbows, you can tell with the way he's been kicking people's legs, chopping them down. I mean, he swept Crow off his feet earlier on in this match. Crow came running at him, and Harlock managed to pull off a sweep. And that, for a guy that, I mean, Harlock's what, almost 6 foot, almost 300 pounds. I mean, Harlock's a big guy, and he is throwing some heavy-handed strikes. He's throwing a lot of kicks. He's throwing around a lot of submissions. It's showing that Harlock is really sweeping up his game. He's been doing a lot of suplexes. Harlock right now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Harlock is at the peak of his game. Harlock is a threat. And I don't, and this might be a bold statement, I don't know if there's one single person in CHWA right now, maybe even including myself and Elride, that could stop Harlock Cross, and that's terrifying.
That is very terrifying. And let's talk about how this match match ended. It seemed like
great match, by the way. Great match.
Great match from all three of these wrestlers. But it seemed like there for a second, Harlock would go for a pin, Alistair would go for a pin, Chameleon would go. Everyone decided that they would go and try and pin each other, but just nobody could get it done. And
Harlock finally was able to hit that big choke slam on Chameleon. And then instead of just pinning Chameleon like he normally would, it wasn't enough. Harlock wanted to make a statement. And he walked by this point, I mean, we're what, 10, almost 15 minutes into this match?
Yeah, roughly 10, 15.
I know Harlock at that point's running on fumes, but he grabs Alistair Crow around the neck, picks him up at least 6 foot in the air, choke slams him. But Harlock just can't capitalize at that point. He runs out of gas and he falls. And Harlock, I believe at some point, looked over at you, Dilly, and screamed something at you. I don't know what it was. He might have been saying, hey, you're next. But as Harlock is getting up and assumingly going for a cover, all of a sudden the music of the Voodoo King plays, and here comes Voodoo.
And Voodoo pulling out some voodoo. Almost looks like he was cursing Harlock and telling him that belt's going to be mine. And Harlock chases after Voodoo, leaving Alistair Crow and Chameleon in the ring.
And, of course, Crow hits the crow's nest on Chameleon. 1, 2, 3. Great job there by Iorio the Ruffalo. But before we move on here, Dilly, I want to talk about, now I know you're the camera guy, you're also the ring announcer, you wear a lot of hats. But when guys come through that curtain going at it the way Harlock and Voodoo did, you don't normally see that stuff. I'm telling you right now, Dilly, it took myself and almost 13 wrestlers to pull these two apart. I mean, they were throwing everything at each other. Our medics table, you know which table I'm talking about, Dilly.
I do.
Got broken half. We had to company expense that, from what I understand. The upper management, the board, if you will, approved the funding to get a new medic table because Harlock managed to suplex Voodoo. Let me repeat that so you hear this clearly. He suplexed Voodoo through this table. Voodoo, at that point, still somehow manages to get to his feet, fight through a wave of wrestlers who were trying to get these people into opposite rooms. They fought into the office area. I don't know how the table in there didn't get broke, but a couple chairs got broke, and this one kind of upset me. The ice bath got tumped over. I believe that got damaged. I mean, that building back there, I mean, Dilly, you came back there after the show was over, and I think you can attest, it looked like an 18-wheeler had drove through there with a tornado following it. I mean, it was a freaking nightmare.
The last time I seen that back area so a mess was whenever the entire roster decided that they needed to fight each other, and they tore the entire building up.
And Dilly, I'm going to be honest, at some point we need to do a story time about that night, because that was, I know that you got hit in that, and I know you have some reserved feelings, but for me, that was one of the wildest nights in CHWA history, and there was so much that went into that I don't think the CHWA Nation quite understands.
No.
And my God, what a brawl. But no, that backstage area, I mean, the weight bench, everything. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not just saying this as part of our show, as our program. I'm being 100% transparent. I mean, that whole locker room was tore up. It was just, what a mess. And it was so bad that I felt bad for our cleaning staff who had to stay there until almost Monday afternoon cleaning. It was just, food was everywhere. What a mess Harlock and Voodoo made. And the scary thing is, Dilly, the board of directors do not want suspensions handed out to either of them for whatever reason. I think it's probably because they're afraid to tell either one of those giants that they're suspended. But
Yeah.
my God, what could possibly happen this upcoming Sunday is when we record our show. So this upcoming Sunday, Dilly, I, for one, am probably going to be changing in my car.
That is probably a good idea for you, Chris. I would not want any part of those two being anywhere near each other, if they even go near each other.
And I'm going to try to get a camera back there to hopefully catch any of the action that goes on back there. And talking about getting cameras to catch some action, while we got a second here, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about our Patreon. Okay,
Yes.
let me talk to you about the CHWA Patreon.
Yes, plug
right
the Patreon.
Now,
Patreon.com/CHWA.
It is full of all of our pay-per-view shows. There are some match cards on there that get released early. There's a slew of content coming to it. There's so much good stuff going to be happening on there. We've got exclusive shoot interviews with some of your favorite and disfavorite roster members. There was one other thing I can't remember right off the top of my brain, Dilly. My brain's misfiring here. It's from all the concussions from wrestling. But one thing I do know that will be eventually being added. This is a spoiler. At some point, we have talked about adding a Patreon championship that has been passed up to the board. I don't know if the board's going to approve it just yet or not, but if that Patreon championship were to be approved, it will be defended exclusively on patreon.com/CHWA Cottage Hills Wrestling Line. So make sure to check out our Patreon. Hit that for life tier. Definitely worth the $10 a month. You're going to get all the pay-per-view shows, especially if you haven't seen a pay-per-view show in person. I'm telling you, it's worth the money for all of you people that live out of state, people that live around the world, all of our international, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, international friends out there that can't make it to a CHWA pay-per-view at the end of the month. That Patreon is absolutely worth every penny. And speaking of things that are worth every single penny, ring announcer Dilly, tell these beautiful human beings about this next match.
Well, we are now at our co-main event, Mr. Exodus. Our co-main event for, I'm sorry. What was I thinking? The triple threat match was our co-main event. I'm slipping my mind. I must have. You see, you got concussions. I must at least have had one in my time, because Dilly's memory is terrible. We just talked about our co-main event, and at this point, before our main event got on, the Parasite decided that he wanted to come out and address the nation and tell everyone that, ever since he started wrestling the Mizoku last week, Parasite has not been feeling so well. And he can't quite exactly figure out why. And I'd be willing to bet that he thinks that the Mizoku is somewhat involved in why the Parasite just isn't right this week.
Well, Dilly, let me tell you something. Let me tell all the CHWA Nation something. I'd be willing to bet you the deed to my house and everything that I own that the reason the Parasite is not all right is 100% due to the Mizoku. I mean, the Mizoku is yet again, call back to what I said about Drew Carter, somebody I took under my wing, somebody I personally hand-trained, somebody that I, at one point in time, saw as my replacement, who was going to replace me in the business one day. And he has went down just such a dark path. And I mean, I don't even know him anymore. I don't even know him. I don't recognize him. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And, we saw with this, Tyler Blake's in the middle of addressing the best wrestling fans on planet Earth, the CHWA Nation, and the lights go off, and seemingly out of thin air, the abyss, the darkness, whatever tagline you want to use, out pops the Mizoku. And I'll tell you this, ring announcer Dilly, I know you filmed it. This is one of the most just uncomfortable beatdowns that I have ever witnessed in my entire life. I mean,
it really was. This beatdown was so uncomfortable that the crowd was just silent with tension of not knowing what's going to happen. Mizoku comes out and starts waving hands. It just starts waving signs and then jumps under the ring. Mizoku is just a different being than what
he shoved Karen, the photo girl. I mean, we're not talking about someone here who's a normal human being. I truly don't believe that Mizoku is a normal human being. That it's not just a gimmick. No. Mizoku is terrifying. He is one of the guys that genuinely are terrifying. And this beatdown was so brutal that Tyler Blake suffered a concussion.
Yeah. And case in point, we have the recap. You can see it on this recap, Chris. Whenever Mizoku throws the Parasite up against the ring, Parasite bashes his head up against our ring, and a lot of, for the folks who don't know at home, that ring, it's not aluminum, it's not some cheap plastic, that's solid cast iron steel. And that's not fun to hit, especially with something as precious and soft as your head.
And you're talking about solid steel. And out comes Mizoku with a sledgehammer, a legit 20-pound sledgehammer, and he bashes Tyler Blake in the skull. Tyler Blake is just pouring blood at this point. And to be honest, I don't know if it was from the ring post or the sledgehammer, but blood was all over the floor, ring announcer Dilly. You saw it. I saw it.
Yeah.
And it just, oh man, blood everywhere. Jin the medic in the background just having an absolute panic attack. Tyler Blake gets his head wrung off this sledgehammer. And when I've told people today that Tyler Blake suffered a concussion, everyone's response was, well, shocking, because after you watch this is people say in wrestling when the crowd's not making any noise that it's because they're not interested, but there is a silence that isn't like the rest of crowd silence.
Yeah.
And it's this uncomfortable silence, and the crowd had a little bit of murmuring about them because I think they were trying to convince themselves that this wasn't as brutal as it was. And at the end of this attack, I mean, Mizoku just raining in shoulders to the jaw, raining in elbows to the upper body. I mean, hitting him so hard, you can hear the force of it.
Mm-hmm.
Takes him to the barricade just to admire his work, and he just...
He starts looking for more to mess with Parasite, and he goes and finds the sledgehammer again.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to hit him once, curb stomp him on it, and slam his face into it over and over. He just had to keep going. And Dilly, I'm not going to lie, man. I hope that this is not the end of the Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
And here at the end of this thing, this is what's terrifying. It almost looks as if Tyler Blake can't move. His body, I don't know if he was seized up or if it was some kind of extra, I don't even know the word, some kind of evil force. I don't know the word to use, Dilly. This is uncomfortable to watch. I mean,
it really is. Mizoku, after taking that sledgehammer and just pushing more on the Parasite's head, he grabs it to choke him out more, and as he does so, the Parasite lays there in almost crucifixion pose and just cannot move. And Mizoku just leaves him.
I mean, it's just uncomfortable. And today because obviously a lot of people think I'm still in management, and I'm not. I resigned from management long before last year from the Ashes. I am just a wrestler at this point. But I got word today from Godfather. He texted me on the phone and told me that Tyler Blake suffered a Class 3 concussion. And that is one of the worst concussions that is the worst concussion, I do believe, that a human can suffer. And my thoughts and my prayers go out to Tyler Blake. I know that the CHWA Nation has reached out to him over his Facebook at Tyler Blake to wish him a speedy recovery. And the bad thing is, Dilly, things always get even worse before they get better. And these guys, I don't think this stops here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. But unfortunately, what doesn't stop is this radio recap. And we are now at our main event. Earlier in the show, it was announced that Damian Blackwell would face the anti-social one, Sean Valiant, since Sean seemed to be apt for fighting. Chaos Jester made it official with the approval of Godfather that Sean Valiant would face Damian Blackwell in the main event of tonight, and we are at that show or that match.
Let's talk about these two guys, man. Let's talk about these two guys. Sean Valiant, arguably, he's very polarizing. He's very controversial, but nonetheless, I mean, he's a young guy, just kind of cutting his teeth in the business. And, he's already, I mean, Sean Valiant started in, when did he start, Dilly? I believe August of last year.
January.
Yeah,
it was August. It was August. I'm sorry. He started in a battle royal. He came out as the first contestant in a battle royal, or no, the second contestant in a battle royal against PT Beckham, and PT Beckham threw him out within 3 or 4 seconds.
And see, this is what I'm talking about. So in August, 3 or 4 seconds he lasted in a battle royal, and then last week at Ground Zero, this man legitimately won. The way he won was controversial, but he nonetheless won the CHWA Heavyweight Championship in a couple of months. I mean, he has ascended the ranks quickly. He knows what he is doing in there, and it's almost scary how fast this young man's caught on. But you want to talk about young men that have caught on fast. Let's talk about the 18-year-old third-generation monster, of course, flanked to the ring, as always, by the beautiful, wonderful Halo Blackwell.
Yes.
And let's just talk about this, man. I mean, Damian Blackwell immediately starts off with a crossbody. Damian, like Drew Carter, is just so agile for a big man. It's absolutely terrifying, especially when you're wrestling against him, knowing how agile he is.
It's very terrifying.
He starts this match off whooping that ass, bringing it to Sean Valiant. I mean, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment built up to Sean Valiant. I mean, Sean Valiant not only cheated to win the CHWA championship, but, I mean, Sean Valiant tried to concuss this man. He tried to hurt this man.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this fight was on, Dilly, and off the gates, I mean, just hard-hitting action here in the main event of the CHWA show. Damian Blackwell busting out a couple new moves in this match, I do believe, and Sean Valiant, I mean, put up a valiant fight in this. I mean, Sean Valiant's no slouch. I mean, I will say this. I think Sean Valiant, I'm putting it out there right now, Sean Valiant's got one of the meanest, if not the meanest, right hand in CHWA. This kid, he hits hard. He hits with purpose and precision accuracy. He hits really hard, Dilly.
He really does. But, that's something that you can say against Damian Blackwell. He is no slouch to being hit hard. Damian, in his almost anger of this match, because this is something that, I want to speak up on. It was very different announcing Damian Blackwell and not saying your CHWA heavyweight champion. It was very difficult, and I can't imagine what he was going through coming through that curtain. But I know it must have been anger, because he he lays the biggest of smackdowns to start this match. You know, you talked about the crossbody to start it, breaking out some new moves, throwing Shawn against the ring post to make sure, hey, listen, this is no longer, you know, the heavyweight champion match. This is we're gonna be brutal in this match, and Damian just setting it off in a good tone against Shawn in this match.
Let's also pull back the curtain here a little bit. Sean Valiant gets smashed into the ring post. This man crawled under the ring and threw up everywhere underneath the ring. I mean, there was just throw up everywhere. And at some point shortly after that, I mean, this man's forehead was leaking like a faucet somewhere in this match. I mean, he is just blood everywhere. I felt bad for our medical team and for the people that that get paid to clean our building after our shows. This building, I can't believe this building's standing. Like I said earlier, with Voodoo and Harlock tearing up everything, suplexing each other through the medical table. There was rallies all over the place, and Burger King and fries, and there was a milkshake stuck to the ceiling. And then after all that, there's blood everywhere out there, throw up under the ring. I mean, it was just it looked like a goddamn war zone.
Yeah. Almost a ground zero.
Yeah. It was almost like we had the pay-per-view name transitioned over even a week after the pay-per-view. I mean, and that's the thing, Dilly. I mean, you got to think. Springtime is right around the corner. The weather's starting to get into the 60s here in the Midwest. And the boys and the women on the roster, this is when the fights happen. This is when everyone is they're ready to go. They get motivated. It's warm outside. They're ready to fight. A lot of bad things happen around this time of year. A lot of fights happen around this time of year. And hopefully, I hope and pray that it doesn't get much worse than it's been the past couple of weeks. But
yeah,
I don't know, Dilly.
Hopefully things calm down at least. Well, we wish and pray that things calm down, but you know as well as I do that this industry is just full of testosterone, and from both men and women, and with this and egos, and just a lot of pent up rage that just can't be held sometimes. And that's something that I think Shawn was in this match, was after just getting the hell beat out of him for the first couple minutes of this match, finally starts to let loose and starts taking on Damian and laying in the smackdown on him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, a lot of guys in the back, I don't think they quite realize. Sean Valiant's young. You know, he's very young, not just in age, but in the business. He's only been in the business a couple of months. And I think a lot of people hear that and then they don't take him seriously. But I'm telling you, as someone who's been wrestling for almost 10 years, Sean Valiant is not someone to just snub your nose at. Sean Valiant's a terrifying young man. And, I mean, Damian Blackwell goes, 350 pounds? He's 6'2", 6'3". He's the biggest guy on the CHWA roster.
Most definitely.
And, I mean, it is no secret that he is just huge. And at some points here, Sean Valiant punches Damian Blackwell in the face, and Damian can't stay on his feet because of how hard Sean Valiant hits him.
It really is. It's really crazy to think that Sean is just that nasty with his punches, to where, Damian Blackwell just falls flat on his back from it, almost sees the stars up in the lights. But
oh yeah,
this match was very hard fought, and that's something.
And there was moment.
The big moments that come from this match. Sean Damian climbs up to the top rope to try and set up a move. Sean goes, "Nuh-uh, that's not what's going to happen," and gives him I know it's not a superplex off the top rope, and then comes out of the ring and grabs a chair to basically tell Damian, we're going to repeat what happened last week.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the scary thing here is too, Sean Valiant would have done it. But nonetheless, here comes the savior of it all. Here comes Chaos Jester to stop Sean Valiant from doing it. Damian Blackwell hits the flatliner 1, 2, 3, center of the ring. It's poetic. Damian Blackwell avenges his loss from Ground Zero, gets a little retribution, if you will. I mean, not only does he make Sean Valiant bleed all over the place, but he gets the win. Chaos, of course, a show of respect, does help Damian up to his feet after the match. And, Dilly, I gotta say, this show and as a whole was such a good show.
It really was. And this was just the start of, the month of April, leading up to our last show of the month, From the Ashes, a super show, a show so jam-packed with action that we couldn't help but give it to you guys in the best way possible.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Dilly, I have been around, like I said, for over 10 years, almost 10 years now. And I'll tell you right now, From the Ashes is lining up to be, quite possibly, the greatest CHWA card of all time. I said that, it's almost like a repeat. Because if you recall, in April of 2021, during the build-up to From the Ashes, the original incarnation of From the Ashes, I continued to say that this is going to be the greatest show of all time. And now a year later, I'm repeating myself.
Yes. And that was an incredible show, a reopening of doors, men and women debuting, coming back, just a bunch of different things happened at that show. And to think that we are at a year, it has been 1 year since that has happened, has just blown my mind. We have come so far in what we're doing, and the fact that we're coming up on that 1 year mark, it makes my heart happy, Mr. Exodus.
Makes my heart very full of joy. And I'll tell you, Dilly, the landscape in CHWA has changed so much. And, you look at last year at From the Ashes, you look at who was in, the championship positions, you look at who could realistically be the CHWA champion. And I can almost, across the board right now, say that anybody could step up and challenge Chaos. And it'd be hard-pressed to bet that they couldn't beat him. And it's not because Chaos isn't a worthy champion, because Chaos is the champion. Chaos is the man.
Yeah.
He's a very good champion. But that's how stacked this roster is, that it would be hard to bet between Chaos and the challenger, no matter who the challenger is. And that is
exactly
why CHWA right now, in my opinion, is at the apex of Midwest independent wrestling. This has been just an insane 1 year. There's been so many ups and downs for me personally. And man, what a show this past Sunday was. Hopefully, and I do say hopefully, we don't have crazy incident like we did with Harlock and Voodoo. I know I keep going back to this, but I really wish that the security cameras didn't get damaged during that. I wish the hard drive bay thing, I'm not real tech savvy, but the external hard drive bay thing that the security cameras are hooked up to was unfortunately one of the things that were damaged. Harlock, I believe, from what I can remember, used it as a weapon and legitimately smashed 2 hard drives into Voodoo King's skull. So those are toast. And so my lord, man, the arena was tore up, the backstage was tore up, the office was tore up. I believe one of the toilets even got ripped out.
I think both of them got ripped out.
And let me repeat this again. Voodoo King, from what I heard, ripped this toilet out of the ground with his bare hands and smashed it into Harlock Ross. I mean, just, you want to talk about a crazy night. I hope and pray that it's not going to be this crazy this Sunday, but there's only 2 ways to find that out, Mr. Ring Announcer Dilly.
That is for sure. There's only 2 ways to find that out. That is, 1, you come to the live taping of Thursday Night Throwdown every Sunday at 127 West MacArthur Drive, Cottage Hills, Illinois, 62018. Doors open at 3, first bell at 3:30, and we've been getting better about the ish. But it is either that or you watch it here on YouTube every Thursday. Premieres usually go live at about 2 o'clock, and the full show will be fully live so that you can rewind and watch the best by 6 p.m. And speaking of that YouTube, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment down below. Tell us everything that you love about this show and maybe something that you want to see. Is there a champion or a wrestler that you would love to see in a match? Because, maybe you'll see it soon, or maybe they'll be on that Patreon match that Chris was talking about earlier. But regardless, we want to thank you so much for coming out and listening to us for this past couple of hours, and give a little radio recap, a little R&R with CHWA for the past Thursday night throwdown. So, go ahead, Chris. What do you got?
Make sure to check us out on Facebook. You can find the Facebook at CHWA Cottage Hills Wrestling Alliance. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button like ring announcer Dilly said. Also, this is a fun one that I know has not really been plugged very much. Our ladies actually have their own TikTok. You can find them at CHWA Ladies. It's a pretty cool TikTok, man. It's got all the best highlights of our women. And Dilly, hit them with the Patreon.
Ring announcer Dilly didn't even know about that. I didn't know the ladies had a TikTok.
It's a good TikTok, Dilly. It's a good TikTok.
Now, maybe ring announcer Dilly finally has to install TikTok on his phone. But regardless, the Patreon, like Chris Exodus was saying, patreon.com/CHWA. Subscribe to that For Life tier. That is the top tier, the best tier, the one that's going to get you everything for $10 a month, including pay-per-views, match cards early, and extra content that we are currently working on. But is there anything else that we need to plug, Mr. Exodus?
Plug? I don't think so, but I will say this, and then I will let you close out this little R&R session with the wonderful CHWA Nation, Dilly. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Like I have said several times, I have been around for a very long time. CHWA is at its peak. I encourage any and everyone that is listening to this to come check out our live show or a live pay-per-view show. CHW, I've been to a lot of wrestling shows. I wrestle at a lot of wrestling shows. And I'm telling you right now, there is not a more fun environment that is just incredibly infectious than at CHWA. You will be met and greeted at the door with fun. The crowd, our crowd is part of our show. Without the crowd, there is no show. And I do very much mean that. Without our crowd being there, being loud, being rowdy, there would be no show. I love our crowd. I appreciate the crowd so very much. And God, I cannot wait for Sunday. So, Dilly, do me a favor. I'm going to hit you with an old school wrestling gimmick line. You ready?
All right.
Send the people home happy, Dilly.
All right. Well, let's end it in the fashion of The Godfather. Well, CHWA Nation, we want to thank you so much for coming and listening to us, and we will see you all next week with another radio recap. And I have been ring announcer Dilly and my co-host, Mr. True Exodus 7, Mr. Chris Exodus, and for us, we are out.